Hello, everyone, and welcome to EyeSee's webinar on e-commerce assets, how to optimize your online presence to win at checkout. I'm very excited to talk to my guest today, but first up, some housekeeping info. If you have any technical issues during this session, do not worry, we will be sending a recording of our conversation as soon as we're done. If any questions come up during the session, feel free to type them out in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screens, and we will be glad to get back to you as soon as possible. Our runtime today is about 25 minutes. So let's begin. My guest today is Teodora Paunovic, who is an Insights Manager at EyeSee's UX and Digital team. Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Since our last webinar on e-commerce garnered a lot of interest, we decided to run another short session. This time, we will talk about how e-commerce studies can help you impact the online shopping experience of your consumers. First up, we will share a short update on the online behavior tracker study we ran in the past few months. We will then move to talking about retailer website navigation, and finally, why and how you can use studies like this to negotiate with retailers and fine-tune your assets. So, Teodora, could you tell us what the online and offline shopping horizon looks like right now?
Yes, of course. As we spoke about earlier, we witnessed quite a drastic wave of behavior changes starting in March with COVID-19 outbreak. And while the pandemic is still not over, we have very different restrictions present in different places across the world and in the US. This means we might have people with very different experiences of daily life depending on the place they live. Let's take a quick look at some key categories. When it comes to food and beverage purchases, after waves of increased activity, the last wave of our study, which took place at the end of May, indicates that stockpiling is slowing down in all age groups from 25 to 65 and older, while the younger population claims to continue with increased shopping for groceries. Household essential purchase, here overall stocking up is in decline, although those people in the age group from 25 to 34 and as well those who are 65 and older say they'll increase this activity in the coming period.
And how is online behavior changing?
Online shopping is a very interesting and broad topic as it was the most intense pivot we've seen recently among sales channels and brands. Most of them had to start delivering and create an entirely new direct-to-consumer channels. In contrast, others experienced some bottlenecks in their supply chains. It is safe to say that online shopping will grow significantly in the months to come. And I would just like to point out one data point that online grocery shopping has grown from $4 to $5.3 billion from March to April of 2020.
That is huge, but will all those people who tried online grocery shopping continue using it?
Well, as we mentioned before, sometimes people are not aware of how their habits change and how their conscious attitudes don't align with what they actually do, which is a completely another reason why it's crucial to include implicit methods for measuring behaviors. What's interesting is that throughout all the study waves, the majority of population in their late 50s and older didn't recognize any changes in their online shopping behavior. However, among those whose behavior has changed in this age group, over half of them, 57%, claim they order products online more frequently than before, compared to 48%, which represents the total average across all waves and age groups. What this tells us is that there are new adopters of online shopping, and with those that did try online shopping, their behavior and probably their daily life was affected dramatically by this new habit. So, in a way, I think that those who are really new to this are realizing all the benefit it has both in a crisis like this and in ordinary life. And lastly, I have to say that the fact they're experiencing this profound change doesn't tell us anything about whether they're having an easy time doing so. To do that, we would need to run an e-commerce study in a realistic context and track both the implicit and explicit KPIs.
And are there any differences between the various retailers you tested?
Yes, especially during the pandemic, there are some trends that we have noticed. Different features are showing increased importance in the process of picking an online retailer, such as free delivery, which has become somewhat more important than low prices. Fast delivery is also gaining importance. Free delivery and low prices are particularly important, especially for those in the age group 55 and older, along with having enough supplies in stock. Younger population, especially those aged between 18 and 34, notably more value the availability of multi-packs and fast restocking.
So to conclude again, the ratio of people who claim their behavior has changed when it comes to online shopping and those who claim that it hasn't changed is 50-50 right now. People are slowing with the stockpiling, and older people who have tried online shopping, especially for groceries, are experiencing a significant change in their daily routine. So let's move to the core of our conversation today, which is optimizing all parts of the online P2P. Can you tell us what are the most common browsing patterns you observed over the course of dozens of studies you ran?
Of course, using the search bar for finding the desired product is most commonly used route on both desktop and mobile. Around 50% of desktop shoppers and almost two-thirds of mobile shoppers use search bar when reaching the category or the product. And in a way, this is great because it can bring you to the desired SKU very quickly. But on the other hand, it can be very frustrating if not executed right, or worse, if it sends you in the wrong direction. Studies that are able to show you exactly what percentage of people used which route to solve the same task on different e-commerce websites are very valuable because you can pinpoint exactly where you are losing them. Is it the product details page, or is it somewhere in the search process? Or, as we saw happen with some retailers, as soon as they land on the homepage because of confusing messaging? These studies are allowing you to see the experience from the shopper's perspective, literally through eye tracking and figuratively by seeing where they got stuck in solving tasks and how intuitive the online path of purchase is.
It's interesting here to take a look back on one of our conclusions from our previous e-commerce webinar, and that is that people browse the PLP for a longer time during this pandemic, and they scroll deeper through the page than they did before the crisis. So with more time on their hands and on the lookout for the right bargain, brands have a bigger chance of being bought due to this longer browsing. Of course, SKU positioning is the one key factor that makes a difference between being seen and bought or not. So tell us more about how people look for products on big retailer websites.
The bigger the retailer website, meaning the more product categories there are, the more often search bar is used to look for the desired category or SKU instead of looking for it in the navigation menu. This insight is very relevant because retailers might have different pages depending on whether you type in the category name in the search bar or you find it through the menu section. The smaller the website and the more specialized it is, for example, drugstore website or electronic stores, the bigger the chances that people will use the category menu. These categories are not so overwhelming, and people like to browse this way because they don't have to guess where their product will be. So let's say they're looking for a body lotion. The categories in a bigger retailer might be too broad and might be nested into either personal care or beauty. While in a smaller retailer, they might have a special category for body lotions that they can enjoy and explore. When it comes to the search bar, there are a few more interesting things. One of them is the predictive click or suggested search query completion. This is also very important to be optimized to make sure that your product shows up in here. If the auto suggestion changes the input or if the algorithm is not precise enough, it can make it seem as if there is no desired product in the store and might lead to switching retailers. If you're not careful about the way your retailer lists or tags your product to appear here, a silly mistake like a language difference, a slight difference in spelling, or naming certain things among markets might be detrimental to your product showing up when it needs to.
So I assume that exploration is somewhat narrowed in a search bar if you enter only the SKU name. So the category pages are crucial, or is there more to the search field?
Well, for example, Some retailers offer the add to cart option directly from the suggested results in the drop-down search field, which is widely used, and this is also a demonstration of one learning from the majority of our studies. People will look to buy things as soon as possible if it's a purchase they already decided about. So, if they're shopping for something they regularly need, such as groceries, or are sure about which SKU they want, they will rarely even get to the product details page and will buy it either from the search results page or the product list page, especially from retailers like Amazon and Walmart. So, for CPG categories and products, it is useful to keep in mind that as soon as people have the ability to buy and add the product to the cart and finish their shopping, they will do it. If your buyers are aware of you, it is better to invest in product list page positioning, hero images that stand out, or even product list page ads, anything that can actually prompt them rather than only optimizing the product details page and thinking your work is over.
And what about promotions?
Speaking of promotions, there are certainly a lot of interesting things. The homepage banners and promotions are quite effective, but they also have to be optimized and aligned with the needs of the consumers. This is particularly important for bigger retailers as they have a multitude of categories, and a banner for a shower gel, if you are there to look for electronic device, is not effective and can be distracting. Banners work best if they communicate an offer or a promotion with a clear benefit for the visitor instead of some basic information. This actually fails to garner any interest. If the homepage is cluttered, people will lose interest more quickly right after the homepage banner. If they are bombarded with content, they tend to zone out and not really register the overwhelming visuals they're looking at. Speaking about the banners, overall, we found that product list page banners that promote a specific SKU can boost sales significantly, especially if they promote a SKU is found on the same PLP. These banners are not clicked on often, but they drive sales by reminding people of a product they maybe weren't aware in the beginning of their session.
Yeah, so it's interesting to note how something that seems kind of irrelevant. I mean, if you look at the stats and the fact that people very rarely click on PLP banners, you might think that they're ineffective, but they are effective just in a very different way. So when it comes to different devices, obviously, when we say optimization, we don't mean only on desktop, but rather having a broad and deep look at all the devices your consumers use. However, the experience of shopping on desktop and mobile can look very different and can be spurred by different needs and occasions. So, can you tell us more about the two?
There is certainly a difference in the navigation mindset and navigation path between mobile and desktop. Usually, when you're on desktop, this means you sat there ready to shop for a product, and those people know what they want to find. This usually requires some effort, while with mobile, people access it more often during the day while they commute. For example, with very low effort, so they are more casual. It is used for the exploration and browsing. Here, with mobile devices, people will more often get to the product details page and all the way to the end of this page, a behavior we almost never see when using desktop device. This insight actually presents a great opportunity for brands. Use your mobile product details page to tell a story and build a case for why somebody should choose your product. On desktop, use the above default section on the product details page to present all the most relevant and most general information. Include enough image thumbnails as people love to see the product from more angles and in multiple settings, especially in some categories like beauty and makeup products. The images should be as big and as clear as possible. Here, on the PDP, the product description should be very specific and concrete, and preferably presented in bullets or a table, making it more straightforward, more easily comprehensive, and quicker to read. We saw that the interest drops if there is a huge block of text in the product info on the product details page.
Yeah, that also makes sense. But most of the things we talk about are kind of intuitive, but also there's some very surprising insights throughout this conversation. So, what are some of the mistakes or misconceptions that clients have when it comes to e-commerce testing? So, are there some counterintuitive behaviors that you have to explain time and time again?
That is a great question, actually. There are certainly a lot of misconceptions in the study setup, but it's very rewarding, actually, and at the end of the study when you're able to steer the client into the right direction and help them design an impactful study. However, that can from time to time be very challenging. Sometimes we have to narrow our study objectives, and on the other times, we expand the scope of the research. We try to break down the different levels of study and adjust them to the client's needs and business objectives. Next, one of the points, which is often a main subject for explanation and at the same time quite often overlooked, is search optimization. Like we discussed before, it can be quite challenging to find some products based on their name, for example. If you have a slightly more complex product name and the search is not optimized to recognize this range of queries that might point towards it, you are losing customers who wanted to purchase the product. Imagine that you keep searching and getting no search results. They might go to look to a different product or to a different retailer, as they might assume the first retailer doesn't actually offer that brand. The consumers don't expect that the search is poorly optimized. They are much more likely to guess you just don't have the product.
So yes, this is also a great segue for the last segment of our conversation, which is negotiating with retailers. So is this, I'm referring to the search optimization, is this something that brands might go to their retailers about? And what other topics and insights that result from e-commerce testing can they leverage to position themselves better on retailer websites?
Yes, the search optimization is a great example for that. If you find that people give up on the retailer, if they have a bad search experience, this is not only bad for the brand itself, it is also bad for the retailer, since it means the overall shopping level decreases. The same goes for the navigation. These studies can show us where people get lost and pull out of the shopping process because they can't complete the task at hand, which is finding a specific SKU. Sometimes it happens due to the page categorization, the way products are organized, or the way these categories are called. Based on all those insights, brand can go to retailer and ask for different product classification, especially if we show that it drives sales for the entire category, not just the particular brand. Another interesting topic for negotiating with retailer is PDP optimization for both desktop and mobile. Like we already discussed, they require different content. Clients sometimes put too much value on the desktop product details page, and it could be because it's free and easy to optimize, so they start adding A+ content, and the PDP ends up being overloaded with information, especially for FMCG brands. I would say that they need to direct their attention to hero images, which can boost sales significantly, and the product list page optimization.
Yeah, so when it comes to devices, they require different content and experience in order for people to stick around longer and to be relevant in each moment of the path to purchase. So great, thank you for the very smart tips. But if you could single out one big piece of advice that would really make a difference in the impact and value that e-commerce studies can bring to clients, what would it be?
I would say that clients tend to focus on only one segment of the online path of purchase and try to nail that one and bring it to perfection. However, focusing only on one segment of path to purchase, they miss out on some insights they're hiding in the broader picture. I would tell them to invest slightly more time, thought, and funds into testing a bigger number of pages instead of only product details page or product list page, and this will bring a manifold of insights covering more steps in the purchase process. For example, if they also include the home page, the category page, the search results page, and the checkout page, we can pinpoint which information and which content is the most efficient along the purchase process. If they have a very narrow scope, we might skip some truly actionable and precious conclusions.
And what about benchmarking and the competitors? So I would say that a really big perk of tests that are done in a natural context is the ability to get info about the way your competitor performed, so not just the way your products or assets perform. So how important is this comparison to clients?
This is actually very important and great for the clients. We often run the same test on different websites. Some companies do an annual performance test on all their partner retailers. For example, you could run a test of your and competitor brand performance on Amazon and on Amazon's biggest competitor, let's say Walmart, in some categories. If you're able to locate where their competitor website facilitates better results, you can go to Amazon with these specific and concrete results and say, hey, look, this is something you should change, otherwise, Walmart will outperform you here.
That's a very direct comparison.
Yes, this type of direct benchmarking is great and better to use in negotiations than a more general, descriptive, explicit comparison. So our tests are often beneficial for multiple parties, not just for the brand itself, but for their partner retailers too. It turns into the joint effort for optimization.
Yeah, I love this kind of a win-win situation for everyone that comes out of a single study. So, another question. Are you optimistic about the future and prevalence of e-commerce research?
Yes, I'm quite excited. Recently, we are starting to see one of the best examples of user research, optimizing the omnichannel experience. For omnichannel, cohesion is the key word. And we see some clients incorporating online packaging studies in their shopper research. For example, if they're running a pack redesign test, they want to know straight away how this new design would perform in an online setting. Additionally to this, brands are keen on probing and exploring the shopping experience in both brick and mortar and an online environment to see how they differ and how they can be more aligned. Here, we would suggest using virtual shopping to evaluate the in-store experience and then coupling it with an e-commerce segment for a holistic and contextualized overview.
So this was packed with useful insights. So I'm just going to run quickly through some of our key tips that we covered today. So starting from the home page, the banners should be clear and communicate promotions and clear benefits. PLP banners and ads work if the advertised SKU is present on the page. So invest in hero images and search optimization, which is a somewhat neglected topic, rather than in A+ content in the PDP, because some people might not even get to that page. Optimize mobile pages for browsing, focus on the PDP on mobile, and desktop pages for functionality and visibility. Try to analyze more pages in the online path to purchase. So go from the home page, cover category pages and search result page, of course, over the product detail page and product list page, and all the way to checkout, because great insights might be hiding in some of these other pages. Lastly, combine e-commerce studies with virtual shopping for an omnichannel assessment. And so to end this session, could you choose one key takeaway for you?
Yes, as we mentioned at the very beginning of our discussion, online shopping has notably grown in the past couple of years, and especially now due to COVID-19 outbreak. More and more people are now using online shopping, both younger and older population. Given the potential, which has never been more obvious, the online path of purchase should be optimized and aligned with different customer needs. Regardless of the age group, shopping experience should be simple, intuitive, and enjoyable. Investing in optimization of your online performance is beneficial for your brand, for your partner retailer, category sales, and last but not least, to your customers.
Thanks again, Teodora, and thanks to all of you who have joined us today. I hope this short session was useful. If you have any questions, please reach out to us via email or social media or our website. We will get back to you as soon as possible. We'll also get back to you with answers to the questions you post in the chat. So thank you and stay safe.